Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at how I'm controlling my full pedal board via MIDI using the Morningstar MC6. Now before we hop over right into the board, there's a few things we need to talk about. The first thing I wanted to talk about is why MIDI? Okay, why jump into this whole world of MIDI control and all that stuff? For me, it comes down to essentially two reasons. Now, if you've seen my pedal board, you know that I have a Boss DD500 and an RV500, and I've spent a number of years kind of dialing in tones with those, and I've gotten to the point where I've got some tones that I really enjoy, but the hard part comes down to switching between those sounds efficiently during a song or even song to song in a set. So reason one, and a very common reason for going MIDI, is eliminating the tap dance, and for me really being able to get more specific and more creative and use more delay and reverb tones throughout songs and in a set. So reason number two comes down to how I use my drives and how I get my drive tones. I typically use one drive at a time. I don't do a whole bunch of stacking. I kind of have three different drive tones from three different pedals, and using the Morningstar ML5, I'm able to switch in between pedals, obviously with one button press versus having to turn one off and one on. Makes it a lot easier switching between overdrive tones without doing the whole stacking, gain staging stuff. Works a lot better for how I use drives. There's a ton of other reasons for using MIDI, but I think the big one is always eliminating the tap dance. In utilizing MIDI to do that frees us up to engage more with our band, engage more with maybe our congregation on a Sunday, all those good things. Now the other thing I wanted to touch on really quickly is why I went with Morningstar. There's a lot of really good MIDI controllers and loop switchers out there. I went with the Morningstar products for a couple reasons. The first being the MIDI controller, the MC6 and the ML5, the loop switcher or true bypass loop switcher, are two individual products, which means they're a little more modular. It means I can be a little more flexible when I'm building my board, and I don't have a full all-in-one piece that's taking up a lot of real estate on my board. Number two kind of came down to cost and availability. I was able to pick up an MC6 on the used market for under 150 bucks. Good luck trying to do that right now, but if you scour the used market, you can typically pick up some of those Morningstar products relatively cheaply, especially in comparison to maybe a newer, full MIDI true bypass loop switcher and all those good things. The last piece and what really kind of sold me is I think the Morningstar support and the functions that the Morningstar MC6 and their line of products have. A lot of that comes down to multiple gestures. So the MC6 has 6 buttons, but with things like double tap and long press, I'm able to have one button do a myriad of things. So it gives me a ton of control and flexibility and make things as complex or as simple as I want. Last thing before we jump over to the board here, I did want to mention this. If you're looking for how I actually programmed the MC6 to do these changes using the Morningstar editor, this video is not for you. I'm not gonna jump into the editor or really explain that stuff. If you're looking for that, I would direct you to the Morningstar YouTube page. They have a ton of really good resources. Their videos are well put together, so go check that stuff out. And for those of you that are curious or familiar with MIDI, what I'm doing here is mostly just PC changes, program changes from one sound to the next, and stuff like that. Keeps it pretty simple. I am using CC messages for controlling the modulation blocks on the Stomp, but other than that, the bulk of it is just kind of basic PC changes. All right, that's enough talking. Let's hop over to the board and we can take a look at how I'm utilizing the MC6 in my situation. So when you power things up, it defaults to bank 1. I have bank 1 set up as kind of like a home page where I can get to kind of some easy presets if I'm doing stuff on the fly. I can get to my drives if I want to, try out some stuff or check my drive tones, stuff like that. I have the tuner button, so if I hit the tuner button, tuner on the Stomp turns on. Just some kind of easy things that when you first get to, you know, your gig or your Sunday morning, first things you need to get to. So moving on swiftly here, I organize these where each song has a bank. So you can see it flashes up pretty quickly here, but it'll say bank 2, and it'll have, and I label these song 1, song 2, song 3, etc. And then you can see what they are. And the layout is all the same in each bank, okay? When I enter the bank, you'll notice up here that when I enter a bank, it's setting, I have it set to send tempo to the delay. So you'll see as we go through these, the delay time will change. Next song, well, that tempo is the same, but the delay time will change. So as I enter the bank, the delay tempo is set. That's preset, ready to go. That's kind of a nice, you know, I don't have to do the tap dance. I don't have to do a whole lot other than that. So that's a really nice feature there. As far as sounds, the rest of it is pretty similar per bank, okay? Regardless of the song, they're all the banks are set up very similar. I have a clean, a grit, what I call my grit sound, which is the Saucy Box. You can see this one is grit mod, so it's grit, the Saucy Box with a modulation. And then I have my drive tone, my basic drive tone, which is my Timmy, the drive plus, which is the tube screamer into the Timmy, and then my bright sound, which is the plumes. You can see they are labeled. So Timmy, drive Timmy, Timmy plus TS, drive plumes, and then over here in the middle I have swells. So that's kind of how they're labeled here. So I'm kind of basing everything around my drive sounds. Now what changes per bank and per song is the reverb and delay combination. So even though pretty much here I'm kind of using the same clean, grit, drive plus, bright, swells setup, you'll see the delay and reverb will change per bank, so per song, but also sometimes per sound. So I have, to make it easier, I've also made templates, so I can kind of copy and paste maybe a bank of plate sounds, a bank of more ambient sounds, a mixed template, stuff like that. So you see these changes as we kind of go through this song. So this song is Holy Ground. My clean, we have a small cloud style reverb, long dotted eighth. The grit, medium hall, long dotted eighth. The drive, medium hall, medium dotted eighth. The drive plus is a big hall, medium dotted eighth. And what I do is I get everything close, and then when I practice and run through the songs, I'll tweak a couple things in the editor just so that it pulls up what I want it to for whatever button I'm in. So that's kind of the setup. Again, the specific reverb and delay sounds are set per song. So I typically stay with one type of reverb in terms of one style of reverb throughout a song. So it's typically hall style reverbs, plate style reverbs, and then clouds or, you know, something ambient depending on what the song calls for. Let's see, this is Holy Forever. You know, I got a clean sound, basic clean, again a grit, the Saucy Box plus a chorus, again drive plus, bright, and swells. Pretty basic there. If you're looking at MIDI, you're probably wondering, hey, are you stuck to these 6 tones? And the answer would be yes and no. How I've gone about giving myself some flexibility here is if I go and talk about Morningstar's multiple gestures, if I hold down or long press on my foot switch D here, it'll take me over to the second page in the bank. And then here I have everything. It's kind of like a Stomp box mode where I can turn on and off everything individually in terms of all the stuff that is controlled by the ML5 that sits under here. So I can turn off everything individually, and then I can manually still go through all of my stuff in terms of delay sounds or reverb sounds, delay sounds. So I can still go through and control all that manually should I need to. The only thing that I'm kind of stuck with here is tempo, because this bank is sent tempo information to the DD500. So we can page back again for reference here. Foot switch D, long press. I'm into my stomp box mode. I can turn everything on and off individually. I have this labeled page, so I can just press that and page back to my normal controls, and I'm back to my normal sounds. Really quickly, speaking of multiple gestures, the other control that I do have is on foot switch B and C. So as I mentioned, this is my drive tone, just my standard drive tone with a Timmy, in this case medium hall, medium dotted eighth. But if I double tap this, double press, it turns on. You can't see it because it's being controlled in the ML5 under here. But if I double tap this, it turns on the pitchfork. So no matter what sound I'm on here, I could be on my bright preset. If I double tap this, it turns on the pitchfork. It doesn't switch to this sound unless I just single press it. So again, I could be on any preset here and then add the pitchfork in. Again, you're not able to see that because it's controlled by the ML5 underneath there. But that's kind of how I've added a little flexibility. And then I have one other thing programmed on a double tap, and that's this one here. Foot switch C. If I double tap foot switch C, my goodness. If I double tap this foot switch, you can see over here it's changed to what I've labeled huge dotted eighth. So that's just kind of a big delay sound, a little washy, for perhaps a big chorus or big something kind of at the end of a song, or if I'm just needed something to kind of dynamically make it a little bit bigger. That is essentially everything. That's how I've that's how I've set up the MC6. Let's go through something that's got a little more specific sounds here. Here is We Praise You. So a little bit different here. I've just set up different sounds to fit. So I kind of have my bright sound, I have my grit. This is the saucy box with the vibe, so the vibrato. This lead with the modulation, so that's the Timmy, tube screamer, and dimension. The drive plus modulation, so just the Timmy with the dimension chorus on my regular drive tone and my drive plus, so I can quickly switch between all of these sounds. So this bank's a little bit different, just that I needed some specific tones for that. So really quickly, let's get into a couple examples. I don't want to spend a bunch of time with tones, but I'll show you kind of how I'm using this. So we're still on the bank for We Praise You. Let's just say we got to do the intro riff here, right, for We Praise You. So we kind of have that big intro riff, and then we got to go to like a cleaner verse sound. And then we go to the chorus, say. So we gotta go back to the intro riff. So that's kind of one example of how I'll use that. Let's take a look, maybe a more typical song. It's just Great Are You Lord. So this is kind of a basic clean. Go to the grit sound with the modulation. Let's see, regular drive tone. And that's essentially it, guys. So again, this is kind of how I've landed, making kind of presets based off of the drive tones and assigning delay and reverb tones to whatever bank we're on. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you some information, maybe some ideas on how to utilize MIDI or utilize an MC6. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please let me know, and we'll see you guys in the next one.